What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with our NFL Power Rankings for Week 17. And this week we got Ty filling in for Ethan as he's unavailable. Before we get into the video, we're going to shout out our guy, Corn Doggy Drawings. His link is in the description below, so make sure to go check him out as he's, being very generous and letting us use his drawings, his logos. But Ty, take it away here.
All right, we got the Jaguars here at number 32, and I was pulling hard for them. I'm a big Lions fan, so I was hoping they would get that win over the Jets to give the Lions the number one pick currently, but unfortunately they couldn't do it. Lawrence with a costly interception there at the end. Not much to talk about with this team. Already fired their coach. The only thing they have going for them, possibly, is their potential franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Even though he's had a very rough first season. So let's just hope they make the correct hire for their head coach. They haven't done that in a while, and hopefully get some momentum from the draft.
And 31st, you get the New York Giants, who look like the little Giants right now. Terrible loss to Philly this week. And I honestly can't see them beating the Bears either. Especially the Bears coming off a snowy win in Seattle. I know Seattle's not the best team, but it's always still tough to play in Seattle in those conditions. But I think the Giants, top 5 pick guaranteed.
All right, we got my Lions jumping up, or I guess falling down in the rankings from 29 to 30 with a tough loss to the Falcons, but I can't get too mad about losses when you play a team close and you help your draft pick by losing. Obviously, Jared Goff was out. Tim Boyle is one of the worst backup quarterbacks in the NFL, so that doesn't help. At Seattle this week, and then Green Bay coming up, probably going to lose them both, and looks like they're going to pick second in the draft. But I am excited about the future. I think they made the correct hire with their head coach and Dan Campbell. So going forward, I think they'll start to, I feel like I say this every year, but I feel like they'll start to figure things out going forward and potentially build towards a successful future. This year's not the year.
29th, we got those Jets that beat Jacksonville. I didn't really watch it because, who wants to watch Jaguars? But, a win's a win. And I think for Wilson, being healthy and him getting experience and getting wins, obviously feels good. So credit to the Jets for putting a good week together. But now you got Tampa, and I do know that Bruce Arians is out due to COVID, but I really don't think that's going to matter because you still got Tom Brady on that field, and he's probably going to light up the Jets this week. So if you're in fantasy championships or semis, this is the time to start him.
All right, we got the Panthers at 28, and this team is just turned into kind of a dumpster fire. After they started 3-0 on the season, had a lot of promise. They just can't figure out the quarterback position. They've tried 3 guys starting, and none of them have panned out. Cam Newton has just looked awful his last few games, and I'm surprised he's even still starting. But they go to the Saints this week against one of the top defenses in the league. That's probably going to be rough, similar to this week against the Bucs. So we'll see if they keep Matt Rule at the end of the season.
27th, we got the Houston Texans in a very shocking and maybe best upset of the year against the Chargers, who, if they win this game, they're looking like playoff locks in the AFC. But now it's not looking good for them. And credit to the Texans, pulling one out. Davis Mills looking great. Even without Brandon Cooks, their best receiver, due to COVID, he didn't play and still found a way to win. Texans got that spoiler role right now, and maybe they can do it again this week against the 49ers.
We got the Seahawks here at number 26. Unfortunately, I don't think there's much to look forward to for this franchise. I personally think Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson will be gone by the first game next season. So I think they're going to kind of blow it up. Unfortunately, they've had a good run, but this year just hasn't gone their way, and the future isn't looking so great for Seattle.
25th, we got the Chicago Bears. who just beat Seattle in a very snowy winter wonderland type game. And I think it may be the same again this weekend for the Bears at home, obviously, because they're outside. And, at least Fields, I believe, will be starting in this game. But, give Nick Foles credit. He looks pretty good out there last week. And feed David Montgomery to help my fantasy team. I need to win this week. So if any of the Bears coaches are hearing this, put in a good word for me.
And we got the Washington football team here at number 24. Last week was an embarrassment. No, nice way to put that. I think it was like 22 guys out with COVID. Not much you can do about that, but you gave up 56. That's pretty bad, no matter how you slice it, no matter who you had available. And then obviously the incident on the sideline with two college teammates getting into it with a punch thrown, just not a good look for them. And I actually was kind of high on this team when they got to 6-6. I thought they were going to get into the playoffs, but obviously now that's pretty much out the window. I don't think they're going to beat the Eagles. I think the Eagles have a lot more to play for, and there's going to be a lot of question marks around Washington as the season ends, primarily around the quarterback position.
23rd, we got the Falcons, who narrowly squeaked out a win against the Lions in, typical Lions fashion. Almost about to score and then just give them the game. But I think, the Falcons could play spoilers. They still got an outside chance at the playoffs. You got to win your next two, but when you're going to Buffalo, I'm not liking those chances. Matt Ryan is solid, had a pretty solid year, passing for over 4,000. I think if not, he's almost there. And Kyle Pitts, looking like a monster for years to come. So if they can figure out, the defensive side of the ball, I think this Falcons team, in the next year or two, and Matt Ryan's last few years could, make a shot and have a shot.
All right, the Browns all the way down at number 22, something I definitely didn't expect going into this season, but it's where they deserve to be. Again, a bad game for Baker Mayfield. He's had a lot of them lately. 4 picks against Green Bay in a game that they probably should have won. I mean, they lost the game by 2 points, and you gave the ball away 4 times. But that's kind of been the story of the year. They've turned the ball over. They've made too many mistakes, and they're in for a tough test going to Pittsburgh on Monday night against that defense. It again, questions at the quarterback position. Common theme in these rankings. What does Cleveland do at the end of this year, especially if they miss the playoffs? What do they do with Baker?
21st, we got the Saints, who, Ian Book's already getting dragged across every social media platform, but how can he not? What did he do good in this game except get blown up every play? Threw his first career touchdown pass on his second throw, so that was pretty cool. It was just to the other team, though, which kind of sucks. And, they need Taysom Hill back immediately. He's really their only shot they got at the playoffs. Got a cupcake game this week. It should be, at least, if Hill's back, against the Panthers at home. But, I'm not writing that in as a win because who knows with the Saints team. But just give Kamara the ball every time, and I think you should be able to win.
All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers hanging around here at number 20, hanging around with their playoff hopes. But last week, they got embarrassed. Very un-Steeler-like, just kind of quit it, to put it shortly. Got down 23-0 in the first half and kind of just rolled over and gave that game up in Kansas City. They got to bounce back quick, though. They get the Browns at home, a huge rivalry, divisional game, and their playoff hopes are still alive. They're half game out of that 7 seed, and the Browns at home is a game I think the Steelers should win if they play up to speed. They gotta figure out that offensive line, though, and what are they going to do at the quarterback position with Ben Roethlisberger? I would say 99% chance he's retiring. So what are they going to do there?
19th, we've got the Denver Broncos, who I mean, they need Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, he got hurt pretty bad in that concussion. But it clearly shows how much Teddy meant to this team, as they only put up 13 against Vegas, and they only put up 17. So it really was a boring game. But now Chargers at their place, if you want to make the playoffs, you got to win this game. And Chargers, they got to stay in the playoffs, and they got to win this game. So huge game for both these teams. But for Denver, I think they're just not too far out on the outside looking in. But to their credit, getting rid of Von Miller and getting healthy and young for the next year.
All right, we got the Eagles here at 18, and this team just continues to fight their way back into playoff contention, even when the odds are against them. Last week, they dominated the Giants, coming off a dominant win over Washington, who they get this week. I think that's a game they should win. There's a lot of negative energy around Washington right now, especially after their blowout loss. And Jalen Hurts has definitely earned himself to be the week 1 starter in 2022 and possibly beyond. He has had a really strong season for the Eagles, and he's led them into this position. Now it's just a matter of whether they can finish it and make the playoffs.
17th, got the Raiders, ugly win, and they pretty much got screwed over in the Carson Wentz new COVID rule. That's if he actually can clear it, but Carson Wentz got COVID, wasn't supposed to play. Now the new rule, he might be able to play. And I mean, bad luck if you're a Raiders fan, but I think 8-7 record after all that's happened to this franchise in the last 3 months, not even year, 3 months. You can't be, dissing on that. But I think this team is just going to miss the playoffs, as they got the Colts this week, moved to 8-8. And it's just going to be too little too late for this Raiders team.
All right, we got the Baltimore Ravens here at 16, and this team is just finally feeling the effects of all the injuries that they've taken on throughout the season, with 4 straight losses now. And now you got the Rams coming in. That's a really tough game. Basically an elimination game for Baltimore. I know they're not done by any means if they lose that game, but it's going to be a long road back if they do. They need to get Lamar back, obviously, or at least Tyler Huntley, to have any chance in this game. But they are just decimated on defense, and I think it's going to be a long game facing Stafford and Kupp. So I think their playoff hopes fade this week, unfortunately.
In 15th, we got the Vikings, and I think they're in the same boat. Their playoff hopes are probably going to fade. They beat Packers once at home, but now you're going into Lambeau Sunday night, probably in snowy weather. Rodgers doesn't lose those games. And, when all 3 of those things are favored in the Packers' way, it's always a tough task. But, they still got a shot. It seems like Minnesota always gives Green Bay a tough game, but I just can't see it happening this week. All biased aside, I just don't really see how the Vikings can pull this one off.
All right, well, we got the Chargers taking a big dip from 9 to 14, and rightfully so, giving up 41 points to the Houston Texans. This team is just way too inconsistent this season. Every time it looks like they're turning a corner to be a top team in the AFC, they have a game like this, and they come right back down to earth, unfortunately. It seems like every other week you either get a blow-up game from Justin Herbert and they win the game, or everything falls apart and they lose in embarrassing fashion like this week. But the Broncos game, that's a huge game for both teams. Both teams still alive. The Chargers, I think all they need to do is win their last 2 and they're in. I think obviously Baltimore's most likely going to lose once, probably twice. So Chargers win this game, they're looking good, but no game is a guarantee for them, as we saw last week.
13th, we've got the Dolphins, who just find ways to win. Ripped off 7 in a row after they lost 7 in a row. First team in NFL history to do that. And I right now will give you a preview of the picks this week. I'm going with the upset in Miami. Tennessee, they've looked kind of suspect at times, pulling on a squeaker last week against the Niners. and then sometimes they put up 41, and then they put up 10. So I think it's gonna be one of those weeks for Tennessee where they get stifled on offense. Tannehill's gonna have to throw, and it doesn't work out for him. And the Dolphins are moved to 9-7. Yes, I know that's crazy. 9-7, Miami with a winning record. It feels like that hasn't happened since maybe even before 2010s. But I do think this Dolphins team will make the playoffs and has something in store, and could pull off an upset.
All right, we got the Cardinals who keep falling. Now they go from 7 to 12 in the rankings. And, I hate to put it all on the coach, but this even happened to Cliff Kingsbury when he was in college. His Texas Tech teams would start out hot and then just completely fall apart at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cardinals did the same thing last year. They were, I want to say, 6-3 or 7-3, and ended up 8-8 and missing the playoffs this year. They're on a similar path, and they just got to get it figured out. Now they go to Dallas. I don't see them winning that game, and I always was a little hesitant on the Cardinals, especially after that loss to the Packers. And now they've lost 3 games in a row, and this team has a lot of question marks around them. And they're trending towards a first-round exit unless they turn a corner here in the last 2 weeks.
In 11th, we got the Patriots falling pretty big here. Just because, this team, it seems like they're really good, and then they need a win to, be that really good team, and they can't get it done this year. I feel like they kind of got bailed out in the first meeting because the winds were 40, 50 miles an hour, and the Patriots are more equipped for that environment than the Bills were. And now it's the Bills' environment, and it showed that, they're the better team. Once you have Mac Jones starting to throw the ball, and he actually has to throw the ball, it's not something you want to do if you're the Patriots. So that's why it's such a drastic drop for them. They should get back in the win column this week as they're facing the NFL worst and first draft pick next year, Jacksonville Jaguars. And Patriots moved to 10-6.
We got the Niners here staying at number 10. Tough game for Jimmy Garoppolo against the Titans. Now we're not sure what his deal is with the torn muscle in his thumb. But I think that does kind of ease things for 49ers fans if they can get him back, knowing that he was playing injured in that game, and that definitely had something to do with his poor performance against the Titans. Now they get the Texans. They should win that game, despite possibly starting Trey Lance at quarterback. But I still think this is a really good team. I think they've kind of figured it out despite that loss last week. And if they can get Jimmy G healthy, they are contenders in the NFC.
At 9, we got the Cincinnati Bengals who, wow. I mean, yeah, I know they didn't have Huntley or Lamar, but 41, Burrow, I believe I don't know what on the top 10 list, but he's on the top 10 list for most passing yards in a game now at 525. And, they even could have had more if they decided to throw later because it was just that easy for the Bengals. And to his credit, I don't blame him on the keep running up the score because they did it last year. The defensive coordinator calls him out, give him the already Hall of Fame jacket, all that. And he really shut them up. And he showed out, went out, and balled against that team. And let's see if he can do it this week against the Chiefs. You got Patty Mahomes, who's lighting it up, and their defense is finally, clicking on all cylinders. So definitely probably the best game of the week, not just for playoff seeding, but, just great football.
All right, we got the Buffalo Bills here at number 8, and it's safe to say the Bills are back. They definitely had some question marks at 7-6 after that loss to the Patriots, but I think they definitely answered that this week, going back into New England and beating them by double digits. So that's a huge win for them. And now they control the AFC East. They have the Falcons this week, a game they should win. They go as far as Josh Allen's going to take them because obviously running the ball is something that rarely crosses their mind. But the last 2 weeks, it's been working for them. And I think they are definitely Super Bowl contenders again. I think that's safe to say.
And at 7th, we got the Indianapolis Colts, who are getting bailed by the NFLPA on the COVID rules. They say it's because of the new CDC guidelines and all the political stuff. And I don't like to get too in depth with that. But, it just kind of comes at a weird time where the starting quarterback on the hottest team in football is out. And then all of a sudden, he's probably going to be good to go for Sunday. But either way, you still got to give this team credit. Jonathan Taylor for MVP, and that's over my biased Aaron Rodgers. He is the factor of 9-6 right there, not anybody else. I know their defense has been playing well, but Jonathan Taylor, he's been not just fantasy beast, but pretty much put the team on his back and franchise on his back this year. And I expect him to get to 10-6 this week.
We got the Titans here at number 6, and I still think this team could win the AFC if they get Derrick Henry back in the playoffs. I still have question marks myself about the Titans without Derrick Henry and when Ryan Tannehill has to throw the ball. Obviously, they're not going to run through the AFC not having to throw, just getting it done on the ground. There are going to be games in the playoffs where Tannehill is forced to throw, and I don't know if he's quite proved that he can do that yet. They obviously had a big win over the 49ers, but a lot of that was due to Jimmy Garoppolo's struggles, giving them short fields on his interceptions. So playing the Dolphins this week, that game could go either way, in my opinion. The Dolphins have won 7 games in a row, and the Titans don't have their best player. So nothing is really guaranteed right now for the Titans going forward, but you still have to keep them up here based on their performance last week.
And at 5th, after a win, they're dropping. Yes, you're probably thinking, why are they dropping here? Well, it's because the other 2 teams that moved ahead of them had very convincing wins. And there's no credit, no mean things to say about the Rams. Tough game. Minnesota, at Minnesota, who, vying for that wild card spot. Go in there, get a win, and you're rewarded with playing in Baltimore, who, desperately needs a win as well. I would say Lamar is probably trending towards playing this week. Last week, even with the COVID situation, they almost said, screw it. Like, if you need a backup quarterback, he'll be in there. But I just can't see the Rams, giving this one away. And they're going to win that NFC West as well.
Yeah, we got the Cowboys here at number 4. And they definitely deserve to move ahead of the Rams right now. That huge win over Washington. And that was a game Dak Prescott really needed, just to prove to all his doubters and to himself that he can play to that level still. I want to give a shout out to him myself for my fantasy team, putting up 45 in the first half. Thank you for that. But this team has 2 very, very great running backs, obviously, in Pollard and Elliott. And I think they're doing a good job limiting Elliott's touches right now to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. This team is very well set up for the playoffs. They're one of the more healthy teams in the league. Obviously, Micah Parsons having a huge season on defense. I think they beat Arizona. And if Green Bay loses one of their last 2, Dallas is your 1 seed in the NFC, so they got a lot to play for still.
At 3rd, we got the Bucs, who, coming off that 9-0 loss to the Saints, responded pretty well with Tom Brady going off. Rojo, seems like we haven't said his name in 2-3 years. Finally, breaking out after the Fournette injury. But the Bucs just keep reloading. Doesn't matter who they have, they're going to keep reloading. And, they have Arians out this week, but they got the Jets, and, should be still a blowout. But, as long as you got Tom Brady on your team, you're destined to at least make the playoffs.
We got the Chiefs at number 2 here, and I don't think anyone's really going to argue this. I definitely think Kansas City and Green Bay are a cut above everyone in the NFL by a small margin right now. And I think Kansas City, it's going to be very tough for anyone to beat them in the AFC if that conference does end up running through Kansas City. This team has won, I want to say, 8 in a row. They've found their stride. basically they're right back to where they were last year and in 2019 when they won the Super Bowl. You know, their defense seems like we say it every year. They struggle so bad at the start of the season. Everyone freaks out, hits the panic button, and they figure it out. They have a great coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo. And obviously last week they dominated the Steelers. And if they can go in and beat Cincinnati, I definitely am going to pick them to go to the Super Bowl.
And that one, we got my Packers who, they really shouldn't have won that game. Against Cleveland, you get bailed out with Baker Mayfield throwing 4 picks. I believe 2 in the fourth quarter, when they're driving down the field, especially that last drive. The minute left, Baker's at the 40 driving. He throws that pick. So, it's a win. Win's a win, especially in the NFL. When you're leading the NFL in wins, you're doing something right and you're getting lucky as well. So, to their credit, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, probably the best duo in football right now, at least this year. And, you got Minnesota at home Sunday night. You win this game, I think it's all but a lock on the 1 seed just because they play the Lions the next week. They could be point spoiler. But, to Green Bay's credit, I think the defense is what's got to get talked about here. Jair Alexander has been out, it feels like, almost the whole year, and they somehow are still managing to lock up the top receivers, not have them score too much. And moving forward, the special teams is the biggest question for this Packers team because that's where their biggest weakness is. And, playoffs, 1 kick return can demoralize your whole team for the rest of the, game. So they got to clean up some things on special teams. But other than that, they're the number 1 team in the Bench Buddies power rankings this week. And that's going to be it for our video today. Make sure you check the description to find out where we got these logos from. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, comment what you think on the power rankings, if the Packers should be 1. But thanks, Ty, for subbing in, and the Bench Buddies are out.
She never called back.